Hello, everybody. This is Herb Strather on the Herb Strather Detroit Talk Radio Show. And I'm going to tell you something. We got one exciting show today for you. We have his father was a great Motown writer, and he is carrying the torch in real estate development. And his name is Rodger Penzabene. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
I got it right. Rodger, thanks for coming on the show, my man.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so very much. Rodger is the chairman of the Highland Park Chamber of Commerce. Highland Park. And the Highland Park is a very hot place right now because it sits right in the middle of Detroit. We surrounds all four sides of it, and it shares our systems and many things. Although you have your own police force and fire department. It is independent, yet we're interdependent on each other. Right. And it's so very strategic because its location on Woodward Avenue. And everywhere I go now, it's about Herb. Have you heard about Highland Park? You know, what do you think is going to happen to Highland Park? Because it's right down Woodward Avenue, and everything on Woodward is red hot. So by definition, Highland Park got to be hot. Isn't that something?
It's hot. For those in the know, it's hot.
For those,
some people still sleeping on Highland Park. So if you don't know about Highland Park, you got to step up your business game, especially in real estate.
Well, Rodger, that's why we have you here, because I must express a certain degree of ignorance myself, exactly what happened. I've heard rumors. You know, we've heard rumors that there's been some pretty big moves by some of the power players in Detroit to buy up some of the real estate. And you know, that is, I think that's good, but it's also concerning. It depends on how much they bought up. So you want to know those details. We would like to know, you know, how just get a glimpse on how you see Highland Park over the next 5 years. And we also want to talk about some of the opportunities that you think that the developers have participated. You know, there's a really big, you know, although Detroit is on fire and the mayor's speech was great, you know, the thing that is most concerning is that African Americans are not participating. We haven't gotten the opportunities as much. So that's our complaint. Even those who have been on Mayor Duggan's executive committee, you know, I think all of us. Right. They said, well, what happened to us? You know, why is it that we're not getting opportunities? So, but we're very, very, very grateful, you know, that the city is growing and booming, because if you take it all away and say, where would we be? I mean, we was in a pretty bad shape. And all of a sudden, 4 years ago, it was a dire situation. Right. Look at us right now, all the new buildings and all the things happening. But the big concern is our participation. So let's roll it all the way back. And why don't you start by telling us about Highland Park's future? What do you see in Highland Park's future right now?
Well, everything bright and sunny from our point of view at the Chamber of Commerce. So let me just set the tone for all who don't know. The Chamber of Commerce is an independent civic business organization. We're C6 tax exempt, which allows us to legally participate in politics. So we are aggressively planning to help forward the progress of Highland Park and expedite it through political means as well. So the current mayor, Hubert Yap, he's the current mayor of Highland Park, and he's with us. He's been cooperative and friendly with us. He's on our advisory board in an ex officio capacity, along with Wayne County Commissioner Martha G. Scott. So they have been very helpful. We still have some pushback and some bumps in the road with the rest of the elected officials, namely the city council, but we're trying to work all that out, because Highland Park went almost a little over 20 years without a Chamber of Commerce, maybe closer to 25, because we can't get an exact record of that, along with a lot of other data from Highland Park. It's been so scattered and disenfranchised that you can't get some hardline data. But
so how long you guys been around?
We've been around and established, registered with the state since May of 16.
May of 1960?
No, of
2016. Okay, so that's 100 years.
Yeah.
But for the last 2 years for sure.
Right. So we're registered with the state of Michigan, and also with the IRS as a C6.
Okay.
And we're a member of the Detroit Metro Visiting Bureau and Convention Union.
And you're the chairman.
I'm the chairman, CEO of the chamber, and Judge Cynthia Latoya Miller from 36th District Court. She's our first vice president. Then we have we have a influential board and people that help us out. So we mean serious business. So I wanted to say that about us. We also are practicing what we preach. We own a former nursing home in Highland Park on the corner of Glendale and 2nd.
So you mean the Chamber of Commerce own the home
themselves?
We
own. It's a blighted building now that we want to develop ourselves and maybe take on some partners. It's 55,000 square foot commercial building.
Is this for an office building?
It's for mixed use.
Mixed use?
The plan is to make it office, retail, residential, and commercial event space. So, and we have the 55,000 square feet of building and an adjacent lot that we can build on.
Is there a second floor also?
It's 3 floors in the basement.
Wow, that's exciting. Maybe I would like to help you guys with that.
We would love to have your help. So that we are invested there. We have just the plans for our building is everything we do and advocate. We want to do 21st century, on a world class tech and innovation and everything. So our infrastructure is diverse. We have seniors out of retirement. We have returning citizens. We have straight, gay, all types of religious background, economic backgrounds. We have PhDs. We have all of this within our internal infrastructure.
There's no question Highland Park is just a little enclave, and it could be developed. Hamilton Street is such a great street. Look how wide it is. It would be something.
We see that being bigger than Main Street is to Ferndale.
I mean, it could really be something, and it's just pretty. And it's not too big.
No.
How big is Highland Park?
2.9 square miles.
2.93 miles. That is perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect size for development.
With the infrastructure is, like you said in the opening, it's a geographical gold mine. It's kind of a frontier land right now.
Yes.
Because it's so disenfranchised. It's been like that for maybe almost 40 years now. It's been constantly dropping, but now everybody got the word and everybody's coming. So Woodward Avenue is the heart line.
So what has happened recently? Are there any recent developments you want to tell us about?
Well, nothing major other than the excitement of purchasing real estate. We have some big players, namely from Detroit.
Okay.
Some recognizable names who everybody would know that's very active in Detroit as far as development. They have officially bought property in Highland Park, so we expect that they didn't buy it just to sit on it.
Right. So can I guess that first name might be Dan?
You can guess. You'll be kind of hot.
I'll be hot, you cold, you hot, you're hot, I'm hot.
You be hot.
All right,
close
everybody.
to the fire.
You understand what I'm saying? In other words, there's a guy we believe named Dad, whose first name is Dad, who's done a lot of redevelopment downtown Detroit, has made a play in Highland Park.
Yeah, and again, he didn't do that deal through me. I'm not the city, but I'm plugged in and kind of connected to the who's who of the city to get the official words.
Well, Rodger, let me ask you a question. How big was the play? I mean, was it a few?
I think let me say this. I'm confident, I'm assured that the purchase was on the size to make that person the biggest landlord in Highland Park. That's my opinion. I want to put it that way.
Wow. There's a question I think every Detroiter and Highland Parker should really ask, because, if you're from Detroit to Highland Park, we're all the same. You know what I mean? It's almost anonymous. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is quite an interesting time in our history, because this is a transitional part. And it's been a perfect setup. Bankruptcy first, and then massive scandals, financial ruin, and then creating just opportunities that everybody in the world came and said, well, look, it got to be great deals there. And they all engage in buying up our real estate at one time. Most of our real estate is bought by outsiders. Yeah. And all of a sudden, seemingly, the gym, Highland Park is the same thing.
Right.
Now, there's a plus and a minus, Rodger.
Right.
The plus for outsiders to come and buy, and especially when they create a demand, raises the price of our properties. We like that. But then we get this very much, it becomes discerning when they take a position and buy most of it. If it, like, one person owned most of downtown Detroit, that's not anywhere in the world that one person owned most of a
Right.
city, and there's no action, there's no comments. Oh, that's okay. What happens then when all of a sudden the rents triple or whatever? Complete control.
Right.
How can we let somebody have complete control of us, man? It is the most embarrassing thing that could actually happen. If we don't believe it's going to play out, it hasn't finished playing out. Now,
Right.
all of a sudden, and listen, my hands off to Dan. If I saw him someplace, I'd certainly send him a bottle of champagne.
As would I.
Because he's been a gold mine and really great to Detroit. But there got to be some point where you say, okay, let the private market kind of move. I don't have to own every single item.
Right,
You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So in Highland Park, it comes to the same thing. It's a great move to take and spark the redevelopment, own some of the key buildings, own some of the strategic stuff. But this is the first salvo. Is there another one going to come down where there's another 300 units being bought up or 500
I
units?
mean, the city just issued RFQ for purchase. It was open to everybody in February. I don't know if that's still going officially. Like I said,
Do you know what date the RFQ?
it was issued at the beginning of February, the first week of February, where the mayor announced it and made it public. And it was supposed to have a deadline in February.
In February, okay.
But like I said, things kind of still happening fast in Highland Park, so sometimes it's hard to get some hardline data on different things. But I'm in regular communication with the mayor, and sometimes he's not at liberty to say certain things. It's a thing, a strategy involved,
Right.
because you got the politics in place. So some information is kind of gray here and there, but for the most part, Highland Park is progressing, and it's a lot of interest, but it's like you said, it's open to everybody. So the problem that I found for the past almost 3 years, nobody was interested. When I would try to solicit people, and I would go to like the Hilton and the Marriotts and people like that, they were like, it's interesting, but not right now.
Well, you know what? That whole scenario is about to change.
Right.
I can imagine Strather Academy would like to joint venture with the Chamber of Commerce and do us a symposium, Highland Park on Fire, and let us bring in all those interested players. And if we don't save ourselves and take action, exactly who is?
Well, I'm trying
Exactly
to find out.
who's going to take action? Nobody's going to take action because everybody want to do what's in their self-benefit. And God bless them, all of the Europeans is moving in. Their parents did not live here, but their grandparents did. And you know what? They have a rightful place to come back home and say, hey, I want to live back where my mother was born. That's all good
Right.
news. And I don't have any problem with that. The biggest issue I have is those that are outsiders that are coming in as investors, turning our communities into rentals. Are we going to put up with this? Are we going to absolutely just sit it with our mouth open and watch it? Gosh, Lee, I think I was born for this moment, Rodger, because I want to change history. In other words, if I don't say something, if we don't do something, if I can't do it by myself, but I can start a movement, and the movement can do it.
Well,
this is what I'm trying to get Detroiters, Highland Parkers. Look, we're all cousins. We have got to get together and change the inevitable. If we don't do anything, what is 2020 going to look like? That's 2 years from now. You tell me. By then it'll be too late because the stage is being set now. And in the next 2 years, it's going to happen because the sun and the moon and the stars are still aligned.
Yeah.
But then, once development happens, prices really jump, they get out of line. Just like 48201 Midtown now is now getting out of line for affordability, of course.
Right.
In 2013, it had a 48.93% poverty rate. It was the second highest behind Temperance, Michigan.
Well,
And now it's the hottest
Destination
zip code
in the
in the
country.
entire United States for
Yeah.
appreciation.
And-
So all of a sudden, the sun and the moon, they're out of line for that opportunity.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's the same exact thing that's happening in Highland Park. Us who are native here of
Yes.
a certain age remember Midtown as Cass Corridor.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to run out of gas.
A rat didn't even want to live down
Right, that old Cass Corridor, right?
Right. Now everybody, they rush to Cass Corridor, i.e. Midtown. So Highland Park, historic. Let me give some
It's
history.
Midtown.
Yeah,
It's Cash
actually
Corridor.
uptown.
It's uptown.
And that's not a new branding moniker. If you look back to the 40s and you see some of the marquee around the city, it's still uptown. So it's in perfect. Like you say, the stars. You got downtown, midtown, New Center. Now you got uptown.
Oh my God!
Which Highland Park, and Highland Park brings all this legacy that people don't know. Let me real quick on April the 4th, Highland Park will be 100 years old.
100 years old. You know what? That's a good thing to pause right there, because I want you to roll out what these points of interest is. Give us a couple of minute break and let me take it down, be a drink of coffee. We'll be right back with y'all. Now, we left off about Highland Park, 100 years. So kind of roll it out. Tell us what's going on. You're 100 years old today?
Highland Park. And let me say
this
this.
year?
I'm a Detroiter, and I'm doing business in Highland Park, and I own some property in Highland Park. So I want to enjoy both cities, and I agree with you 100% about Detroit and Highland Park. They have to get along. They have to understand the dynamics of that relationship, along with Ferndale, the gateway to Oakland County from our end, and even Hamtramck. Hamtramck and Highland Park are the only two cities surrounded by Detroit.
Right, and they have particular interests.
And that's
those two.
unique to the United States. Nobody else in the United States has that dynamic.
Really?
That two independent cities are surrounded by another independent city.
You know, that's very interesting. And you're talking about the dynamics.
Yeah.
The other dynamics that I hope we all realize is that Detroit itself and Highland Park is the largest concentration of African Americans in the United States. And that's why it's so significant. You say, the population have the greatest percentage of African Americans in any city. They're being disenfranchised. The word go out and say, you know what? In Detroit, in Highland Park, you could buy houses cheaper than cars. I swear to God, you can buy houses cheaper than cars.
Not now.
But okay, well, it's still those opportunities still exist.
It's still
at that
affordable
point
for the little guy to, like you say, own something instead of paying rent and leasing and all of that and being controlled. You can come in as an entrepreneur and you can maybe afford to do something on your own or as a group of little guys to be one big guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
there.
Rodger, when we talk about the value proposition, I mean, I would think that Highland Park's value proposition is really the same as Detroit, and maybe even a little bit better, because some of these properties you can still get for a few $1,000s. Now, maybe the big move by the big fella having tilted the price all of a sudden and everything just went up. Well, that's good news too.
Right.
But let's think about the fact that what is really happening. The same thing that happened off Euclid, Pingree. You just go right down where the same thing happened. And if you think I'm joking, just go to Zillow and look. And you'll see last year Zillow, if you took Pingree Street, the most of the properties on Pingree was going for $35,000 to $45,000 to two flat. And around September of last year, I looked at it and I noticed they were still $35,000 or $45,000, but I would see a sprinkling of homes that went for $100,000, $120,000. I said, look at this. And I look up the home that went for $120,000. It's the same as one for $35,000. I said, gee. So I said, and the date of the sale was, in 2017. So I'm saying, oh, wow, they're paying 400% more for the same house. Right. And all of a sudden, when I looked at Zillow about a month ago, the whole thing, the Zillow values everything around $65,000. So Zillow have doubled the price themselves. Right. Values are jumping so fast that Zillow cannot keep up with it. Now, our class bought some properties on Atkins. We paid $57,000. Appraisal came back the other day, $220,000.
Right around the corner from Boston Edison.
There you go.
Where I grew up.
Edison, Longfellow, all of those streets right there are 400 and 500%. I'm suggesting the same thing is happening in Highland Park.
Yeah.
Suppose you could just get one of these properties right now. You know what, Rodger? Strather Academy joined forces with NACA. Are you familiar with NACA?
No.
NACA is the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America. We was on the radio show yesterday, Mason's Radio. We got $13 billion in funding. $13 billion. And listen, no credit scores needed, no down payment, and no closing costs. Think about that. No credit score, no down payment, and no closing costs, no PMI, and they'll go 50% above whatever we say, whatever the appraisal is. That 50% is for additional repairs. And we know Highland Park's values are psychologically depressed.
Right.
We do also know that there's a great demand up and down Woodward. So bada bing, bada bang, you get your property, you can still get it for a good value proposition. Just get one. You will ensure your granddaughter's education. You will ensure that your daughter's college. You would ensure a good retirement for yourself. Get one. They did that in Harlem. And those people that moved in Harlem when they were psychologically depressed, they were all millionaires now.
Right.
And people of color. They bought in Harlem when the prices were like they are in Detroit, and they're all millionaires. Now, and I know I'm doing all the talking and you're the guest here, but I'm so excited, man.
I'm learning and getting fired up listening
So, Rodger, we want to identify these resources now, and I admit I should have been more on fire. People asked me in February about Highland Park's RFP, and I didn't move on it because I'm so grossly involved in Detroit right now. Now that I found out that there's been a big move, too, and now just to really having you on my show,
right?
You know, we look alike. Now, you boy better look at it, but we still look alike. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, look here. So we've got to join forces and save our community.
Right.
That's what we got to do.
Well, that's why I'm here.
We got Knuckles. One of my students is running it now. Now, 3 of Strather Academy employees have now joined NACA so that we can get these loans out as quick as we can. And those of you who are listening here today, we want you to become involved in Highland Park. So why don't you take it back, Rodger? Because I want action. You know, the interview is one thing. But let's make sure as a result of our interview, man, we take some action.
Well, let me give them some contact information.
Go ahead.
And then I'll clean everything
up.
You can reach us 313-349-0587 is the phone number. Email is hpmichamber@gmail.com. Our post office box is 3989 Highland Park, Michigan. And also you can find us on Facebook. I'm under my personal name if you want to follow me. And also the chamber is under Highland Park Chamber of Commerce on Facebook. And make sure you're on Highland Park, Michigan, and not Highland Park, Illinois, or because depending on what you do, that sometimes pops up.
Easy
and we're on all the social media. And bear with us. Our website, if you want to join the chamber as a client member, you run a business, or you just want to talk to us that way, is hpmichamber.org is the website. And it's a secure website for all the big corporations. So we have DTE, Comcast already as clients. They've been good to us. And Coca-Cola is processing to come now because Coca-Cola has a office in Highland Park.
Good news.
So I wanted to say that, and bear with us. Our website is being overhauled. And we're stepping up ourselves and having all the bells and whistles and everything. But it is secured right now for those corporations and those businesses who have that concern. And so that's how to find us. You can find me. I'm all about town. I'm everywhere.
Right.
But I wanted to echo what you were saying about the opportunities. It's exactly that. Highland Park is ripe for entrepreneurs and African Americans and other minorities to come in and have some stake in it on leadership, and the politics are there to get involved with if you meet the eligibility. So I wanted to say that, and we have people that want to come and do things as far as hotels, restaurants, water park, rapid, innovative, high-tech transportation, green spaces with state-of-the-art new innovations with Parks and Rec. All these things people want to do. They talk to us about it. Right now, the politics is a big pothole in the road. And then the capital. We need the big capital to come in. And we get calls from overseas and things, but we want to keep it hometown if we can.
Well, I'll tell you what we would like to do. Our initiative is to take and develop a block. Right. If we're going to do 12 houses, we want to do everything on a single block rather than kind of spread out.
Right.
And so it's block development. And we have some partners. Liz is very much interested in doing that, although Liz, I believe, is just strictly Detroit. But Detroit, the Strather Academy have a $2.5 million credit line. And you'll love this, Rodger.
Yeah, I love it.
It's from Lenacy, which is the largest black private lender in the United States. They got $1 billion credit line, and they came in. The chairman Todd Billings came and taught my class about a month ago, and he's already closed $290,000. We're closing this week, tomorrow, the next day we're closing another 3 deals for $300,000 or $400,000. So we're now seeking to concentrate these funds in our community, and we want to do it in an organized way. Because this is what our test is. Will a single mom with kids live there? A single mom, that means she have kids. Will a single mom live in that community? You understand? Is she scared?
Right.
You understand? If it's an environment where a single mom is, I'll take my 2 kids, I want to live there. And we want to open everybody's eyes. I want to ask you a question, Rodger. Okay. Did you know that if you're below the poverty rate, you don't have to pay property taxes?
I did hear that. I was aware. I don't understand all of it, but
yes.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
But most people, if you ask people in Highland Park, 90% of them, I guarantee you 90% of them don't even know it, because municipal governments are not going to go around telling people, look, you don't really have to pay.
Right.
You understand? Because they want the revenue. But here's the danger in that. The danger is when they lose their house. Right. And they never had to pay. Man, it almost makes me cry, man. Honest God, when I think about the thousands of people in Detroit that got taken out and they didn't ever have to pay taxes. Hell, if they couldn't afford it, they could have flipped it to the person who's going to be buying, and they could have realized the profit. Because once the government took their house, they turned around and sold it for big money, and they didn't give them the difference.
Well, that's why the education, like your academy, and that's what we advocate to the stakeholders that already own property there. We try to educate them to do things like make sure you got a will, incorporate, know about your tax laws. I know this, vets who are 100% disability, they don't pay.
There's no question. Do you have community
taxes.
Forums?
Yeah, we're trying to start it. The problem with Highland Park is there's no community meeting space. We don't have venues big enough other than the recreation center or one of the churches where we can gather. And I don't particularly like to mix the business in a church home. So I try to stay.
Well, the answer there, community development is both. That's church and business.
Right, right. I do.
And the church has an obligation to do community development around there, because look, they get free everything, free police, free lights, free. So they have a personal obligation to do it as part of the ministry. So let's do this. Suppose that we kick off a forum. I want to tell you right now, Strather Academy is joining the Chamber of Commerce. We're a member. We're a proud member. We've just become a proud member. Get me an application.
Hey, I got you covered.
So we're in, and we want to join forces now, and let's kick out our first public forum. And one of the big churches in Highland Park over there, I'll allow you to come up with the venue, and if you need some help, I'm involved with the churches, I can help. But let's come up with a place now, a forum, and let us promote it collectively.
All right.
So we can get the business interests in Highland Park and those people who are in Detroit area that want to get involved in redevelopment. I want to talk to Detroiters first. I want to talk to the native people first. I'm not interested in talking to people all around the world about coming in, buying properties, and renting up in our community, because ultimately that's not what we want to do. Right. A healthy community is home ownership, not a bunch of rental houses that people cannot talk English on. Who would do such a thing? This is embarrassing. To be the largest black municipality concentration in the United States and let somebody just eat our lunch? How am I going to tell my grandkids about this? Say, Granddaddy, what did you do? I want to let them know, hell, I fought the good fight.
Well, I'm with you, and you just don't know how relieved I am to have an ally such as yourself. So I've been saying it, and maybe you can throw more weight around than I am, because I'm new to the game. I admit. And I got into this out of concern, out of passion. I went there as a businessman, and things just weren't right and conducive for my livelihood, so I got involved. So I want to say that to all of the public. Get involved. You're not too small. You're not, don't worry about the education, the politics. If you see something in your community, like what Mr. Strauss just said about the community coming together, get involved. Learn who to talk to. Listen to shows like this. Start getting connected. That's your biggest asset to survive this and avoid this gentrification thing.
Yes.
To avoid being pushed out of your community, or to even stay there but have somebody else dictating the terms of how it's going to be.
And
you still have a chance to have a say-so in Highland Park, and this, the stronger Highland Park gets, the more Wayne County, it strengthens Wayne County.
Right.
So then we can kind of be in a bigger playing field in dealing with Oakland County, the
Right.
wealthiest county in the state.
Right, you know, as we kind of wrap the show up, I just want to remind you, you may know this already, or people who know about Highland Park, what award Highland Park won in 1951. You know, it was the, you know, I didn't forget now, it was the top American city.
Cleanest city. Our slogan that we're doing for the 100 years is Highland Park, the birthplace of the American dream.
Right,
And
Ford Motor Company.
Yeah, and that was came up by a guy named Tim Carr. He's the grandson of Storin, who was once a mayor of Highland Park. So I hope I got that history right, because it was recently brought to my knowledge. But Tim Carr, he's on the 100-year, the Centennial Planning Committee, and he came up with that slogan. And it's befitting if you know the history and the legacy of Highland Park. It's accurate, it's deserved. Highland Park is the birthplace of the American dream. It started with Henry Ford and the $5 a day wage. And you can research that, and you understand why it is.
That's right. That was the place. And I got to make sure that I get it right, what 1950 was. 51 was. I remember that precisely. I said, wow, Highland Park was the #1 city in the United States then. Just think about it. It makes sense. Henry Ford was back there. Boom. Oh, yeah. I never tied the two together, but it was a clean place. It was a booming suburb. It was the place to be.
It was the first suburb in the United States.
Really?
Yeah. New Jersey claimed the title before everybody tried to brand. So some records will show you New Jersey, but if you check the dates and you check the history, Highland Park is actually the first suburb in America. Highland Park created what we know now as the middle class with the $5 a day wage. Henry Ford created what we know now as global economy. He was doing business and had companies back in the 30s.
We got to bring the magic back.
Yeah, so Highland Park, don't sleep on Highland Park.
All
it's
right.
time to get active.
Well, Rodger and I, we're going to bring back the Herb Strather and Rodger Penzabene show. You understand that? In Highland Park, y'all stay tuned, because we're fixed to do it. Herb Strather live again on the Herb Strather Detroit Talk Radio Show. And I tell you something, I got George Ethridge.
Yes, sir.
George, your name is, did I pronounce your name?
You got it
And you're
right.
over at the Planning Department, and George is
City Planning Commission.
The Planning Commission, which is different. The Planning Department is the administration. The Planning Commission is the City Council. And you are a planner. You're a Detroit Center planner, Detroit City planner. And we got quite a few interesting things. I dropped my ink pen someplace here. Hold on. We got quite a few things that are planned to discuss today. And then we're going to come back at the very end. I want y'all to hang on, because I got a really great surprise, especially for all the Detroit Association of Realtors. You should call everybody up and tell them what's going on, that I got George on the show, and he's going to really talk to us about several items that of great interest to us. George, congratulations, my man.
Thank you so very much. It's truly a pleasure to be here. Not just as a resident of the city of Detroit and seeing the resurgence in investment in residential property, which is something that I'm really happy to see as it relates to investment. But unfortunately, as you're aware, Detroit for the first time in a long time is more renters than homeowners.
Oh, and that's painful. We were 69.5% homeowners at one time.
Yeah, so
And now we're 45% homeowners. We've seen this reversal. Do you foresee a reversal in this for us building and coming back from your perspective?
absolutely. I'm currently a neighborhood association president in addition to being a city planner for the city of Detroit. So
And when you say a neighborhood association president, is that a particular neighborhood association?
Absolutely. So
which one is that?
This is the Castle Rouge Civic Association, which is at 96 and Telegraph, right at the Detroit-Redford border.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's a very important area right there.
absolutely. So we're just north of Detroit Diesel. We've got the industrial corridor running
Yeah.
along Telegraph. We're right at the Detroit-Redford border.
Yeah.
Just south of the freeway. North
I just
of us.
sold a property there, Infinity Park, last year.
All right.
It was in default, and I put the package together to the person who acquired it. And he did a good job. Are you familiar with that project?
Absolutely.
Infinity, I think he's done a good job in bringing it back. There's no question about it. He moved in 35 people, moved them in and did the work. They were all Mexicans, but anyway, he got the job done. I'm not mad at him. So this is very exciting, you know. So there was a couple of things that, there's several things I have on my list, and there's a couple of things that you could like to talk about too. One of the things at the top of my list is, with the city planning. Do you have anything to do with gerrymandering?
Well, one of the things that we do as city planners is we actually draw the maps.
The city?
Well, within the state of Michigan, it's the legislative majority after the decennial census that actually draws the map. So
Whoever is in charge.
absolutely. So for the past, 18 years, it's been the Republican Party that's been in charge. So they've been the ones that drew the new district maps after the 2010 census, after the 2000 census.
I see.
So 2020 is right around the corner. And as we've seen with the congressional races, the state of Michigan was down by one House district within Washington. So we lost the 14th.
Wow.
Because the population, and the Republicans redrew those lines. Within the state of Michigan, we've lost House seats, we've lost Senate seats because the population has declined. And with the Republicans being in majority, if you look at any registration office, any county clerk's office, you'll see that the Democratic Party is the majority within the state of Michigan. But with the Republicans being in control, they have the opportunity to draw lines in a way where they will be in the majority of a particular district.
No matter what happens.
And isolate the majority of the Democratic vote, or isolate it to the point where, yes, Detroit, you'll always be Democratic because that's where we've drawn the boundaries. However, we'll put a sprinkling of Democrats in this district to say that you have representation, but you'll never be able to get that seat. So that's what's happening with gerrymandering. And there's a ballot initiative that's actually on.
I heard about this on CNN.
Absolutely. This is completely a grassroots effort. It's called Voters, Not Politicians. And they got the subsequent number of required signatures for the petitions to get it on the ballot.
It's on the ballot then.
So this is going to be a statewide initiative within the state of Michigan.
Oh, man, this is good.
And what this does, it takes the power away from the majority within the state of Michigan, and it gives it to a bipartisan and independent commission where they fairly draw the boundary, so there truly is equal representation.
But there got to be some politics even involved in that to some extent, I think. Because somebody's going to name the chairman of this bipartisan committee, and that's probably going to be the power in charge, but they just want to have a chance to run away with it, funny lines and all of that.
Absolutely. I don't know if you had an opportunity this past Halloween looking at the Detroit News. There's a illustrator who drew the congressional maps and made them all into monsters. When the country was founded, the nation's second vice president actually gerrymandered the first congressional district, and it was an illustration that was done, and this was out in New Jersey, where it looked like a salamander, and it's a
round and take that one out and put this one in and go up and come back down and all of that kind
absolutely
of stuff.
All for the sake of keeping a stranglehold on power. And what's ironic about this, the argument that's being made against this initiative is, that's just going to give the Democrats the unfair advantage. But
how is that possible when there's the majority Democrats? And I'm going to talk about this just a little bit more, and then we're going to switch to some other good stuff. Trump theoretically won Michigan, but 62 of Detroit precincts did not report. I mean, did somebody pay these guys to take in one of the voting slips to take them out? Because all you had to do is take one voting slip. We won Michigan. Democrats won Michigan. But yet Trump won Michigan because of Detroit only. And how could that happen?
Well, in addition to being a neighborhood association president, I'm also a precinct delegate. And I'll tell you now that there are 4,831 precincts within the state of Michigan. Hillary Clinton lost the state of Michigan by 10,000 votes.
But the 62 precincts, wouldn't that have covered it?
Absolutely.
And so we could have won. In other words, there were 62 precincts that disqualified because of one ballot. It didn't add up. They both got to count and add up, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, so I was thinking to myself, what could somebody like Trump do? I mean, this is just pure speculation. But I mean, someone could go inside of a city and find the person who's going to pick the ballots up, give them 10 grand and say, look here, make sure there's one. Listen, I'm not trying to be funny, but how did we get 62? I could see a few of them, but 62?
And we have over 400 precincts within the city of Detroit alone.
So you got 15% of the precincts in Detroit that had one that didn't add up by a vote. So if it didn't add up by a vote, all the voters went out. Now that's what happened. And then Donald Trump won Michigan, and he didn't really win Michigan because Detroit votes wasn't counted. Well, that's history now. As long as we can take and patch this thing up, and make sure it doesn't ever happen again. But, Trump is getting his comeuppance anyway at this point. And, this is not a political show about national politics, but it is about our community, and many of his policies directly impact our community. What the Secretary of HUD is doing is just absolutely embarrassing. He's from Detroit. I was in ROTC. He was my commander when I graduated. And to see him sit up here and cut HUD's budget and refuse to tell us how much he cut HUD's budget is just ridiculous.
And then his comments in the national media on last week saying that when it comes to public housing, we shouldn't make it too comfortable.
My God. You understand? In other words, those people who are seeking for affordable housing, the seniors and all of that, they shouldn't be so comfortable. You understand? We should make sure that they have a more difficult time. That is something, man. Especially when you grow up poor in the hood and your mama went to church and you grew up, and then all of a sudden you change. But you got to say, well, whatever happened to him anyway? He was a world-known surgeon, well-known and everything. And how could somebody, a famous surgeon, want to be the Secretary of HUD? You tell me that. That is crazy, man. I just don't understand. He took a great demotion. The most prestigious person. They sit up here and now is waddling in the mud, cutting poor people's funding.
Yeah.
That is awful. Yeah. He turned into a monster.
Part of my responsibilities with the City Planning Commission is we deal with entitlement funds that come from HUD. And those funds get used for brick and mortar development. Those funds get used for public service to low to moderate income individuals, yes, and with the focus on eliminating slums and blight. At the height, we received $75 million on an annual basis from HUD.
Okay.
Under this administration, with this most recent allocation, we're down to $32 million.
Wow. You mean more than the 50% cut you got?
It wasn't just within this administration, but gradually over time.
So even during Obama, it started going down. But was it a dramatic difference between Obama last year and this year?
From last year, we received about $34 million. This year, we're at 32.
Okay, then, so it's been a gradual thing going down anyway. So what's going to happen is this here. I want you all to hang on because we're going to take a break for about 2 minutes, about a minute, because we don't have much time. We want to squeeze everything in. You all just hang in a minute. We're going to be back, and we're going to talk some very interesting stuff about community development and the Planning Commission, how they're involved and help us achieve the dreams that we want to have in our community. Just hang on and call all your friends and say, Herb Strather Show is live. So, George, welcome back. This is Herb Strather Show. Welcome back to Herb Strather Talk radio show in Detroit. And I got George Ethridge on. And George is a city planner, and he's with the Detroit City Planning Commission. And they work collectively with the planning department and roll out all of our different, or the housing department, I would think, and roll out a lot of different programs. But George, why don't you tell me about some of the programs, the tax breaks and things that citizens can take it, citizens and developers can get in, how they work, if you could.
Absolutely. So back in the 1990s, 1992 specifically, the state of Michigan introduced neighborhood enterprise zone legislation, specifically for residential properties. Okay. And one of the ways I can see the city of Detroit coming back is by individuals and developers specifically taking advantage of NEZs. And essentially what it does is you create a district. And in the early 2000s, under the Kilpatrick administration, several residential districts were created for single-family homes. Okay. Now, the caveat about that, it only allowed for up to 15% of your total land mass. So of the 139 square miles of the city of Detroit, only 15% of that was allowed to be identified as Homestead NEZ.
I bet, is that at capacity now by any chance?
We are not quite at capacity. However, we're right at the threshold. If we were to go above what's allowed, we'd have to get sign off from the county exec under the state laws, because it not only affects the city of Detroit's bottom line with these tax abatements, it affects the county's bottom line and the state's bottom line.
Is there a mechanism for doing that? Have any municipalities went over their NEZ limit?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm sure that there are some that are close, but nobody uses the tool like the city of Detroit uses the tool.
Okay, so we are effectively using the tool.
We are definitely effectively using the tool.
What are some of the communities? Could you tell us?
We've got Russell Woods.
Okay.
We've got Grandmont Rosedale. We've got Palmer Woods.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I know Palmer Woods. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
So our high-end communities do it because the rate would be so high, people couldn't hardly afford
absolutely,
to live there.
And it's used as a stabilizing factor. We wanted to give tax relief to individuals so they can stay in their homes and continue to pay taxes.
Right.
You know, with the passage of Proposal A in 1994, with the millage rate change as it relates to the funding of public schools, if you were to sell your property after that time frame,
rates go up.
Absolutely, you get that pop-up.
It uncaps, the uncapped value.
Absolutely.
Well, which is the same as the assessed value, the full assessed value
exactly.
is the uncapped value.
So what a homestead NEZ allows for, it allows you to move into a residential property in a single-family home in one of these absolutely beautiful historic neighborhoods, and it allows you to pay up to 50% less of the assessed property taxable value.
Which is very, very huge now. And that's understandable because you got areas like Palmer Woods, you would be paying $16,000 a year in taxes based upon the assessed value.
Absolutely.
And that is an awful lot of taxes to pay along with everything else. So I can understand that. One of the things, though, is that you have to be current on your taxes in order to, well, they say that anyway, but that could be a hardship on someone, you know, if they, you know, I had a case last week where a lady's father died, and he owed delinquent taxes at the time, and they would never let her take advantage of the NEZ until she caught up. Well, she keeps trying to catch up, but if it's clicking $15,000 a year, you know, how you ever catch up, you know, and you don't have that kind of income. So she ended up in the hospital, and they called me and said, please help this lady. So I went down, and thank God the city assessors, they had a heart. You know, they understood what happened, and they allowed her the NEZ application. So they actually reached back and helped her and corrected that. And she didn't have a job at all.
So she might meet the hardship exemption.
She met the hardship exemption, so she doesn't have to pay 2018 taxes. So, I mean, this lady had $60,000 owed, not counting 2017. 2017 would have given her another $18,000. It wouldn't have been the 20. It's like 16 plus her penalties and interest, and then 18 would have been the same thing. So she would have been clicking somewhere around $95,000 in taxes, and now she would be, after it's all said and done, just $40,000. So I did save her quite a bit. We tried to get it off the tax roll last year, but as you know, March 5th, the list get turned into the state, and it's too late. You know, after around December 15th, it's too late, and I don't want to push politics too hard, even though I can, I won't. You know, I want to make sure we still do the right thing. You know, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, so to speak.
Right.
You know, and I don't want to go that far. And so I understood that she was too late on that. But I did appreciate, and my hat's off to the city of Detroit, those assessors over there. They got a heart, they do the right thing. Now, that's so that's the NEZ. So how about the OPRA? How does that work in some others?
So OPRA, which is the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation exemption, that happens for commercial properties that are functionally obsolete.
Okay.
You know, say if you had a building that was being used for one purpose and, you know, it's fallen into disrepair, you can apply for a tax abatement for that property for up to 12 years, where it, again, allows you to pay about 50% of the assessed property values, and then it gradually increases to the true taxable value.
After 12 years or during the 12 years?
During the 12 years, so around
Slowly.
year 10, it starts to graduate.
It starts to graduate. But does it lock in the current value, whatever it is? Or
Absolutely. No? It locks in the current value pre-improvement.
Pre-improvements, and then, so is that what you start off with?
Absolutely. So say if you were to buy a property for, you know, $10,000, good luck finding a property for $10,000.
Okay, but let's use that example.
And you were to make $100,000 in investments into the property. For that first 10 years, you're paying the assessed property value on that $10,000.
Wow.
And then it gradually increases.
Now that is hot. Now that is hot. And that is an effective tool. I hope y'all hear that. Detroit Association of Realtors, this is good stuff that we have to know. We got to be informed. And I hope you're taking this down. I hope you're taping this. My Facebook friends, this is the education of a lifetime. How many tools like this we don't even think about? We go past the building and run down and try to get a loan and do the rehab. We don't go and get our incentives. You understand? And this is what you need, these incentives, so that you can take and develop property and make it more profitable, because you have gaps in the city. What is the real economic return or value, and what is that you have to pay? And sometimes what you have to pay to develop something goes greater than what the economic value is, but it's in the best city's interest to get it done. That gap that's right there is what these programs are all about. You understand? The but-for. We call it the but-for gap. I used to be on the DDA, the Downtown Development Authority. And I approved the Tiger Stadium, for example. You understand? I'm the one that did the vote. When you first come on the DDA, they let all the newcomers make all they always sit back and say, Herb, you do it. So I made quite a few. The Lion Stadium, but it's the but-for factor that we work with.
Absolutely, but for these incentives, it wouldn't be financially feasible to do these developments.
Right.
And the state of Michigan actually has provided a complete toolbox of various incentives that you can use.
Well, tell us some more.
Absolutely, I have a list here. So you have the Public Act 381 of 1996, which is the Brownfield Redevelopment Financing Act. It allows you to take a site that might have some remediation issues so you can clean it up, such as the Mammoth Building.
Okay, yes.
At Grand River and Greenfield.
And what so in the Mammoth Building, it's going to cost me, say, $100,000 for the cleanup. For an example. So do I get a 10% credit on that, or do I?
Well, if you're looking at lead, if you're looking at asbestos removal, any type of environmental cleanup that needs to take place with the property, that cost can be deferred, and you'll receive a reimbursement through tax increment financing.
A full reimbursement.
Yes.
You hear that? In other words, if it costs me $100,000, I can get the $100,000 through a tax credit.
Absolutely.
Theoretically. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. There are other incentives for commercial property.
I like that.
There are other incentives for commercial property rehabilitation. Public Act 210 of 2005. If you are into manufacturing or doing industrial works and have a facility, it's the Public Act 198 of 1974. That was done for the Chrysler plant down off of St. Jean.
And these are all asbestos related, right? Or environmental related?
These are all rehab related. So if you're building from the ground up, if you're demolishing, if you're investing in any types of these commercial properties, you can establish a district, or the city independent of a developer can establish a district, and then you as the developer apply for the certificate to receive the abatement.
Wow, I like that. That is really, really good. George, I'm going to want you to visit our class one day and sit here and talk to our class about these abatements and things like this, because we have a group of very exciting students, our future developers that are eager to learn, and we just like to pick your brain and talk to you about all of these things. Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
All right. This is now, so that's good. Now, are you familiar with PACE?
No.
I hope that's not his name, but whereas you can do redevelopment on your property and essentially add it to the assessment, add it to the property tax bill. Are you familiar with that at this point?
No, I'm not.
Well, I'll tell you what you do. We're going to have my man on next week, John. What is his name?
I think it's Rodger or Richard.
Yes, and it's the PACE program. I'm going to bring him on. And it's good news. If you need a new roof, you need new windows, you can actually take those improvements and you can take essentially and engineer it where it is part of your taxes that you have to pay. So I guess they put it out and you agree to finance it through your property tax. So they have a lien on the property through the tax bill and you pay through there. And we want to talk also about some of our community redevelopment tools, like a business district, And then you have the residential, is it what is it called? SA, gosh, I'm trying to think. I know North Rosedale had, and I wasn't prepared to talk about it. I'm trying to think about if the residents all come together and they agree that they're going to form an association and they cut the grass and do the snow shoveling and things like that. SAT, well, we'll get that too, everybody. I'm so excited. I got my man here. I'm so excited about everything.
We'll post it on your website.
We will post it on the website, but for sure, we also know that the city of Detroit have a budget for neighborhood security patrol, CB radio patrol.
Absolutely.
Under CB radio patrol, you can essentially use these funds, and we worked very hard with David Whittier, your office, last couple of years to make sure that these funds are accessible. You can put in street lights, cameras in the streets right now, and you can put computers in your house and you can watch. Now, I understand that Rosedale Park tried that, but when the summer came in, all the trees came out, they said you couldn't see the cameras. But that could easily be resolved. Just put them right when you enter the community, right where the license plates are at. Just put them right there. You understand? The people, you may say, well, they can go break it, they can do this, they can do that. But it seems to me that, you can just even put it on a pole, maybe even 8 feet, and shine it right down. Where you enter the community, you pick up everybody's license plate, and you put a sign there that says, notice, face recognition technology available, or you're on candid camera, something.
And we've actually considered that in my neighborhood at Castle Rouge. We have a lot of dead-end streets.
Yes.
And, just like every community that's well-to-do or middle class,
right.
You're a target.
Well, I like to explore that. George, we thank you very much for being on the show, and I'd like to extend to you an invitation to join the Optimist Club. Now, your boss, David Whittier. Dave, you owe me a fine because I'm going to bring him in. You understand? So I want you to come as my guest.
And it's funny, when I was in high school, I was a recipient of a scholarship from the Optimist
Are
Club.
you serious?
Yes.
Oh, my God. What school was it? Do you know?
Detroit High School for the Fine and Performing Arts.
Oh, my God. So you are a product of Optimist. So you owe it. You owe it back.
Pay it forward.
You got to play it forward. So we meet. John, we meeting Tuesday.
We meet Tuesday, not this coming Tuesday, George, but the following Tuesday.
Not this Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. Give me a date, John. The Tuesday.
Third Tuesday will be
The 13th of March, and we're going to meet at 6:30 at the top floor of the Milliner Center, the former Milliner Center, the top floor on the apartment side. Enter 500 555 Brush Street. Enter right there, and the guard will let you up on the elevator, 33rd floor. I'm extending an opportunity of a lifetime to come and join the Civic Optimist Club of Detroit. It's where the municipal leaders and the developers, we come together and work together. It consists of the municipal leaders, the directors of the department, including Arthur Edge is our president, and he's with the Building and Safety Engineering Department. And he's over dangerous buildings. You understand? Like a few I have, but I'm taking care of mine. So in any event, come and join us. And this is an open invitation, and you're Herb Strather's guest. George, my man, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Detroiters and my friends and guests, I got some good news I want to play forward with you. We have an upcoming announcement. Detroit Association of Realtors is going to be playing an important part right now. And we're going to be probably on DAR Radio. And we're going to be a part of them, and they're going to be rolling out. It's going to be for the realtors. It's going to be for developers that want to come and join and have a message. So if some of you have a burning desire to come and talk about your message, here, let us know. Just call us at 313, call me directly, 313-407-4930. You got my phone number. Now, 313-407-4930. This is Herb Strather signing off from the Detroit Radio Show, along with my man George Ethridge, who is a city planner and soon to be a civic optimist. I'll see you all next week. Have an exciting show.